Welcome to A Christian in the World of Texts, a space shaped by Christian orthodoxy, open to the insights of scholarship, and devoted to the beauty of the Bible, literary art, and world literature, where faith reads and texts speak. As a Christian, I ask myself, why did God choose Hebrew among hundreds of other languages? In my opinion, this question is not much different from the question of why God chose the Hebrew people. In Deuteronomy 7, Moses tells the people of Israel that the Lord chose them only because He loved them and faithfully kept the oath He swore to their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We can conclude that God chose the Hebrew language because He gave His revelation to Moses, and Moses and his people spoke that language. God repeatedly said that He didn't choose the Hebrews because they were the best. On the contrary, the Bible describes the Hebrew people as the rebellious house and the stiff-necked people with uncircumcised hearts and ears. The people were chosen because of Abraham, who became the spiritual father of all believers. Similarly, the Hebrew language was chosen only because of Moses and his people. When God brought them out of Egypt, they became His people, and their language became the language of God's people. However, some parts of later books of the Hebrew Bible were written in Aramaic, and the New Testament was written in Koine Greek as the most suitable means of communicating the truth to His people. Ultimately, God's plan was to communicate with all people in their languages. So, the Holy Scriptures have been translated into hundreds of languages and can potentially be translated into all the world languages. Some people had to be chosen to receive God's revelation and take it to the whole world, and a language had to be chosen for this task. By God's providence, those people were Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and their descendants, and the language was Hebrew. Later, the chosen people were the apostles and early church leaders, and the chosen language was Koine Greek. In my opinion, biblical languages are neither special nor superior. God could have chosen other people for His purposes, and then, of course, we would have a different Bible with different names, metaphors, and expressions, yet with the same message. The Hebrew Bible, which Jewish people call the Tanakh and Christians the Old Testament, was created in the world of the ancient Hebrew language, except for the chapters written in Aramaic. It contains many Hebrew linguistic elements which are usually not reflected in Bible translations. I will present some examples from the first 4 chapters of the book of Genesis to give you a chance to look at the creation story through the lens of the Hebrew language. Genesis 1:25. God made the beasts, the Hebrew word chayat. God made the beasts of the earth according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and everything that crawls upon the earth, ha'adama is the word for the earth, according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. Verse 26, Then God said, Let us make man in our image. These 2 verses introduce the key concepts in the story represented by the Hebrew consonant roots cha-ya, the concept of living and life, and adama, the concept of redness and ground, red clay. And the name Hawa, which is Eve, as we will see later, comes from the former root related to beast in the verse 25, and the name Adam derives from the latter root of verse 25, from ha'adama, related to the earth in this verse. Let's read chapter 2, verses 2-3. And by the 7th day, God had finished the work He had been doing. So on that day, He rested. In Hebrew it reads, Vayishbot. Vayishbot, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because on that day he rested, translates as Shabbat. He rested from all the work of creation that he had accomplished. The Hebrew verb translated here as rested, he rested, it derives from the root shabata, Shabbat or Shavat, which forms the name of the seventh day, Shabbat, Sabbath. But it actually means not rest, but cessation, finishing something, completing something, stopping. Actually stopping, cessing or stopping. That's the exact meaning. So on that day God stopped from his works, Vayishbot. And then because on that day he stopped from all the work, Shavat, from all the work, that day was named Sabbath, Shabbat. Now 2:7. Then the Lord God formed man, Ha'adam, from the dust of the ground, Ha'adamah, and breathed the breath of life, Chayim, life is Chayim, into his nostrils, and the man, Ha'adam, became a living being, living, Chaya. So here we also see that Adam created from Adamah, and God breathes the breath of life, Chayim, and man becomes Chaya, living. And it's all related to the word Chawa as well. 2:8. And the Lord God planted a garden in Eden, in Hebrew Ba'eden. Eden means pleasure, in the east, where he placed the man, Ha'adam, he had formed. So the name Eden, which we know as paradise, as a place of pleasure, actually is related to the concept of pleasure. Eden is related to pleasure. 2:11. The name of the first river is Pishon. Circle, Pishon. It winds through the whole land of Havilah. Ha-Havilah. And that is the concept of increasing, where there is gold. 2:13. The name of the second river is Gihon. That means bursting forth. It winds through the whole land of Cush. 2:14. The name of the third river is Hiddekel. Hiddekel means rapid. It runs along the east of Assyria. And the fourth river is the Euphrates. In Hebrew, Ferat, fruitfulness. Ferat is a little bit like English fruit, has the same consonants, ferata, fruit, ferat. It's interesting. So that's the concept, fruitfulness. And we see this fruitfulness in the first chapter, 1, verse 11. Then God said, let the earth bring forth vegetation, seed-bearing plants, and fruit, peri. Peri is related to the river Ferat. So this is fruit. Plants and fruit trees, each bearing fruit with seed according to its kind. And it was so. And 1:22. Then God blessed them and said, be fruitful, and again, peru, and multiply and fill the waters of the seas, and let birds multiply on the earth. Now we move to chapter 2, verse 23. And the man said, when he saw his woman for the first time, this is now bone of my bones, and flesh of my flesh. She shall be called woman, for out of man she was taken. In Hebrew it would sound, she shall be called Isha, for out of Ish she was taken. The concepts of man and woman are closely related in Hebrew. They come from the same root. Actually, Ish, just the suffix A is added, and which means that it switches the word from masculine into a feminine form. 3:20. And Adam named his wife Eve, and that is Hawa in Hebrew. He named his wife Hawa because she would be the mother of all the living, of all the Chai. Hawa, Chai, mother of all the Chai, living. Connection again, same root. 3:24. So he drove out the man Ha-Adam and stationed cherubim, and this is the word Ha-Keruvim, on the east side of the Garden of Eden, along with a whirling sword of flame to guard the way to the tree of life. The word cherubim is related to the Hebrew concept of closeness or nearness, which is also related to Qurban, sacrifice, as we discussed in the previous video, language as a lens. If you'd like to watch it, click on the link above. Then in chapter 4, there are peculiar Hebrew figures of speech that are foreign to many other languages and cultures. A literal interpretation of these phrases will be absurd. These are highlighted on the screen right now. So, as I mentioned in the previous video, language as a lens. From the very first pages of the Bible, we find some figures of speech and symbols, and their literal interpretation can often lead to serious errors. In my opinion, it is just as absurd and erroneous to take all the Hebrew concepts and names literally. We should remember that the creation story was given to the Hebrew people in a way that makes sense to them. The concepts behind such names as Adam, Eve, Cain, Abel, Eden, and Euphrates might have been a part of the story that God gave to the Hebrew people as part of their Hebrew world. Their forefather was called Earthly and their foremother was called Life-Giver. Here on the screen you can see I wrote in Hebrew Ha'ish Harishon, the first man, Adam. But if I want to say the same thing in English so that it makes sense and connection to Adam, Adama, and the red color and the earth and the clay, then I will say the first man was Clay. You know, there is a male named Clay. The first name was Clay or Earthly. And that would make that connection. And the second line in Hebrew says Ha'isha Harishona Chava, the first woman, Hawa. If you say Eve in English, it doesn't make that connection. So the first woman's name was Life. Or maybe from the Latin root Vivian, or from the Greek root Zoe. These names for Latins understand what Vivian is. And Greeks understand what Zoe is. It's life. So if it were written in Greek from the very beginning, maybe instead of Hawa, Eve, we would have Zoe today. And finally, in the third line, we read in Hebrew, Hayom HaShevi'i Shabbat. The seventh day, it's not Saturday, it's not Sabbath, it's Sesaday, I could say in English. Okay, this is Sesaday, when we cease our work, when it's a cessation day. Okay, so I just tried to show you what it could sound if God brought his revelation about the first people in the world of the English language. The Bible is a collection of Hebrew and Greek texts, or translations of those texts into other languages. In translation, many elements of Hebrew and Greek are lost as the message or meaning of these texts is transplanted into another conceptual world. But the message of the Bible, with its complex system of meanings and symbols, can be reproduced in any language. It is a different kind of world. The Bible itself is a different kind of world where believers from different nations belong. In the next video, we will look at the Bible as a world and as a unique, complex linguistic sign. Thank you for watching. Until next time, let faith read and let texts speak.